A quick shout out to our sponsor this week, Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet that's packed with tips to help you travel better and spend less. They've got episodes on things like which travel cards are actually worth it, how to book peak season trips without paying peak season prices, and how to spot flight deals that are actually deals. It's smart, it's super practical, definitely worth a listen. Travel smarter and spend less with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts.
This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Today, we're going to the lowest place on Earth, a lake so salty that you can't sink in. It's also shrinking, a shore that's stepping back each year. It's a place that people come to float, to heal, and to learn more about history. And in today's episode, I'm joined again by award-winning travel writer Tim Johnson as we explore more of the Dead Sea.
From Amman to the Dead Sea. Do you remember roughly how long that drive is?
It's about an hour, just a little over an hour when we went, I think, kind of depending on traffic. So a very easy, it could certainly be a day trip if you want it to be. Although, given all there is to see and do around the Dead Sea area and the Dead Sea itself, I would definitely recommend carving out at least a night, ideally 2 nights to kind of extend to spend around the Dead Sea area as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the last time I was there, I stayed at the Marriott Dead Sea, and it really surprised me a little bit because it felt a little bit like a Caribbean or Aegean type of resort, but set on the Dead Sea. So you had the pools, you could sit in the sun. I mean, I'm a guy who loves to read a book and sit by the pool and sit in the sun. And it had all of that, but it was on the Dead Sea. And we can talk a little bit more. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about things to see and do in the area, including getting into the Dead Sea and what that experience is like. What about you? What are your go-to places?
We stay at the Kempinski, the Hotel Ishtar there, which is a huge hotel, very upscale resort right on the edge of the Dead Sea. And getting back to my favorite spa topic again, this was very much known for it's like one of the most award-winning spas, I think, in the Middle East. Quite a large spa complex that they have there. So that's definitely, it's standout feature, and it's right on the sea as well. So, I know we're going to talk about why to go to the Dead Sea and sort of what you'll experience there a little bit as we get into the episode. But definitely it's prime location to be able to experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that is a beautiful property. And as maybe we've talked about on past episodes, Kempinski is one of my favorite brands. I mean, I've stayed at dozens of Kempinski hotels. Beautiful old world charm. I love the service is always very upscale. Each hotel has its own unique feel, and I remember that also from the property at the Dead Sea. And I mean, spa treatments for sure. I believe I can definitely remember one time getting a mud wrap where they took the mud, and we're going to talk a little bit more about mud because I have a couple things to say on that. But they would there is that sort of the healing qualities of the mud and doing a wrap and then a massage, and that is something that you can really only do on the Dead Sea. But let's we're moving into the what to do category now, and I think the number one attraction at the Dead Sea is the Dead Sea, right? And but maybe talk a little bit about. I have my own thoughts on what it's like to swim, quote unquote swim. It's not really swimming in the water there at the Dead Sea.
Yeah, it is definitely a pretty surreal experience, right? It does feel like you're almost weightless, as it is one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth, and you really can't swim in it, right? It like forces you right to the surface. You're like those little fishing bobbers, where you're kind of stuck up at the surface there, but super relaxing, right? You can sit there and read a book, or you often get the iconic pictures. People sit there reading the daily newspaper there, sitting up in the middle of the sea. And then at least at the Kempinski, and I imagine all the hotels kind of do this, they had kind of a ritual that you would go through as you came in and out of the Dead Sea, where they they would cover you up in mud from Dead Sea, and you would sit out for 15, 20 minutes and kind of let that bake in and take out any toxins or whatever, and then go out and float in the Dead Sea, and then get a salt scrub afterwards as well. So I found, probably my only disappointment in the trip, and this was everybody I was traveling with said the same, is like we got there and we had a really packed schedule seeing a lot of the historic things in the area. And because of that, we did like one float in the Dead Sea, and then we were all planning to do it the next morning and just didn't have time in our schedule. And everybody said like they would have, if they could have, would have taken more time to do that at least twice if they could have, because it was such a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had the same experience. I really thought there was going to be some effort required to stay afloat, and there is no effort required at all to stay afloat, right? You basically go in and the water almost just lifts you. It's almost what I would imagine. I've never been to space, but it's almost what I would imagine what, being in the water there is almost like what it would feel like to be in space. Like you just float. And it was almost like you said, like a fishing bobber, and I think that's really accurate. My thought was almost it was like somebody swooping in with an air mattress under you and just swooping you up, and so a really cool, unique experience. And the mud too. I mean, I was with a group one of the times when I went, and we spread the mud. I mean, there's the mud in the spa and the salt scrub, but we actually got into a mud fight, where we're actually literally mudslinging, we were slinging mud at each other. And we have a picture of this group of friends, so all of us together, just covered head to toe in mud. And, that may not sound that appealing to the people listening right now, but actually it is, it's, and you can just go straight in and wash it off. And, no, Dead Sea is definitely a bucket list, kind of once in a lifetime type place.
One other thing I'll mention, I mean, a really easy day trip if you were at the Dead Sea, is Bethany beyond Jordan, which is sort of, and one of the things you're going to find all throughout Jordan is really, this is like the cradle of civilization, right? From Petra to all of the huge number of incredibly significant religious sites, and a lot of people who do sort of religious tourism to the area. And Bethany by Jordan is sort of a very significant biblical location, believed to be where Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. And it's, from that sort of Dead Sea resort area, it's maybe a 20-minute drive to get there. I thought it was really, quite a impactful place to visit, and super interesting place to visit. It was really interesting to visit in the current context because, I mean, it borders directly on the West Bank of Israel, and as you get, you walk down to the baptism site in the Jordan River, and half of the river is on the West Bank and on the Israeli side, the other half is on the Jordanian side, and you've got the border patrol on both sides sort of standing over you and watching over. But it's, both from its enormous historical significance, as well as just the cultural experience of experiencing it now, it's definitely a pretty unique travel experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember being there as well. And I think the thing that struck me was that, in when they talk about the Jordan River in history in the Bible, it sounds like a huge river. And they say back in the day it was a huge river. It's not so wide now, and I mean the world is changing geographically, and so the river is much narrow. But I remember at that point, the very first time I went to Jordan, I hadn't been to Israel. I've been to Israel now, and I just thinking, I could just wade into this river and walk across Israel. I'm sure it would have caused some sort of international incident. It probably would not have.
It certainly would. Yeah.
But it was a little bit tempting, and people were still getting, there were church groups, Christian groups getting baptized and getting their baptism there when I was there. And I think that might still be happening today. So very, very interesting place.
Yeah, I mean, and I will just say, I mean, while we were there, our tour guide talked about exactly what you've just mentioned happening. Somebody on one of his tour groups who did exactly that, who tried to swim across the river from the Jordan to the Israeli side and got further than you were supposed to go, and it did not end well for them. I will say. I mean, the guns were drawn, the border guards on both sides were out, and particularly with some of the tensions in the area right now. I mean, it does feel a bit like you're on the North Korean border or something. I mean, the tensions are heightened there. I mean, I still certainly felt safe during the time we were visiting, but yeah, you don't want to cross on the wrong side of the river.
Absolutely. And I think maybe the thing that surprised me the most about Jordan, and maybe it shouldn't have, but was how much I love the food. I mean, we think Italian food. Sometimes when you think about Middle Eastern food, you think about Lebanese food, certainly, but you don't necessarily go down to your local Jordanian, restaurant on the corner. But I don't think I had a bad meal the whole time that I was there. I mean, just, they talk, you often go to a place and they have mezzes, right? These like appetizers, and it's dips and it's baba ganoush and it's hummus, and just so much good food. And then, I mean, I remember some of the dinners, I'd be dining with, say, 10 people, and they would bring out enough food for 100 people, and I was like, who's going to eat all this food? And I'm sure somebody ate all the food, but I'll just mention a couple quick places. I know you have more thoughts on the food. I want to mention Sufra, which is a place on Rainbow Street. You mentioned Rainbow Street earlier, which specializes in homemade traditional Jordanian cuisine. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to mention that one in Amman. In the Dead Sea, I believe we just ate at the hotel. So, I mean, it was good food, but it wasn't necessarily, a hot tip on a local restaurant. What about you? What were some of your favorite meals?
I've got a very long list when it comes to some pretty incredible dining experiences. As you said, this is from a food and culinary perspective. This is one of the standout destinations I've been to around the world for sure. Let's start with the Dead Sea. I mean, at the Kempinski Hotel there, they have probably one of the best known Lebanese restaurants in the country, and really stand out Lebanese food and great atmosphere and music. So that was certainly great visiting the Dead Sea. And another one I'll mention, which wasn't directly in the Dead Sea, but a day trip that we did out in the Dead Sea to another community called Madaba, which by far was our best meal of the trip. Place called Karam House that, if they don't award Michelin stars in Jordan, but if they did, in my mind, unquestionably, this place would have one. Like, it was super inventive cuisine, taking sort of really traditional Jordanian dishes and Middle Eastern dishes, but interpreting them in a modern way and using a kind of unusual ingredients. The food was phenomenal, and it would be worth its own trip just to go to Karam House. So definitely have to mention that.
That sounds good. Sounds good. All of this makes me want to go back to Jordan. I mean, that's a place, I'd love to visit again. Thanks so much, David.
Thanks, Jim.
A quick shout out to our sponsor this week, Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet that's packed with tips to help you travel better and spend less. They've got episodes on things like which travel cards are actually worth it, how to book peak season trips without paying peak season prices, and how to spot flight deals that are actually deals. It's smart, it's super practical, definitely worth a listen. Travel smarter and spend less with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts.
Can you travel in a way that's better for people and the planet? On Curious Tourism, the Responsible Travel podcast, we explore how tourism shapes our world, for better or worse. From over-tourism and sex tourism to last chance travel, join me, Erin Hines, and my producer, Katie Lohr.
That's me.
To explore the ways in which we can all travel better and build a positive tourism future. Subscribe to Curious Tourism wherever you get your podcasts.